We're back.
So we're back. You missed a lively conversation, but okay.
But we're all still alive.
This is within the thing that we're going to do now. So this is my movie, and it was First Man. I did it in for two reasons. I did it because right now we're in the
50th anniversary
of the Apollo 11 moon landing.
Moonwalk.
And second of all, I thought this was an amazing movie, and it really didn't get its due. So
What's it about?
It's a beautifully told story of Neil Armstrong and the landing of the moon, which was July 20th, 1969. Writers Josh Singer, that's the book. He wrote the book First Man, right? And James R. Hansen. The movie starts in 1961 with the death of Armstrong's daughter, Muffy, from brain cancer. She's I think 3 years old. 3 years old.
Yeah, it's a killer.
And the impact of this tragedy on him and his family. That's when he gets involved in the
Space program?
the space program. The movie ends in 1969 after the completion of the moon landing. So it's kind of like we see this 8-year period of his life, and I can't tell you how. The word I want to use is it's beautifully sad. It's beautifully sad because I really feel at this time in his life he was beautifully sad. You remember he has sons, but this is his youngest daughter.
A baby.
And he is very much like fathers of the 50s and 40s. They can't really express themselves. They can't. And really, I thought that Ryan Gosling
Nailed it?
he nailed it.
Yeah.
I just feel his grief. I feel it all the time. I think it was beautifully shot. It's done like a 1960s, like 2001. You know what I mean? It's very quiet. There's no music. It's just kind of like, but I saw it described. I don't want to use the term. It was like, he's like, Brian Gosling is a black hole. It's like you feel his intensity, but his demeanor is very like nothing. And I thought he nailed it. It made me very interested in Neil Armstrong because he's not the usual astronaut. He's not, and I'm not being negative here, but usually they're cowboys. You know, usually they're like very risk takers. They're whatever. Like Buzz Aldrin would be more like an astronaut.
Yeah.
He was a farmer. He was an aeronautical engineer. He went to a air show with his father when he was 5 or 6 and never looked back. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to fly. He was also one of 2 pilots that were not from the military. He was a test pilot. That's what he did.
Boy.
He was a test pilot. You know, and something about test pilots and makes them not really necessarily great family men. You know what I mean? They tend to rein in their emotions. They have them in check all the time, and you feel that from him. But I loved this movie. I loved Ryan Gosling in this movie. So it was directed by Damien Chazelle, and it was in 2018. So, Patty, what do you think?
So opposite. I really hated this movie. And I will tell you why.
I'm sure you will.
Yes. This movie could have been about 2 things. The actual moon landing and how you get there, or about Neil Armstrong, the man, and it didn't do either. It was the most vaguest movie I've ever seen. And I was waiting for it to kick in, and it never kicked. Or in, right? It was just vague. it was like, as I've always said before, the longest 2 hours of my life gone down the drain. It could have been such a great movie, and I was looking forward to seeing it. But because it didn't take either path, it was about nothing. You see, you don't understand what he's doing. You don't understand it. Anything
Let's
about
take this.
the movie.
You don't understand what he's doing.
Nobody understood.
I understood what he was doing.
Well, that Susie had mentioned to me, because she saw it before I did, that it was about a man who lost his daughter. And even that didn't really, he's expressionless. And even though I understand the 50s, 60s mentality of men then.
Oh, can I add one thing?
Sure.
There's a thing at the end of that movie.
I don't know, I might have been asleep.
But
What
that,
was it?
that I was like, what? And I think
What
that's.
was it?
I can't tell you. That would be
Spoiler
very.
alert.
It's real. It would be a spoiler alert, which I'm not going to tell
a
you.
big thing.
I'm not going to
Yes,
tell
but I don't
anybody.
even
Don't
know.
tell me because I
But
haven't
I
seen
was
it.
like, what? Why haven't I heard of this before? So I investigated it. Did that happen?
Well, what is it?
Well, she
What
can't say, I haven't
happened?
seen
She'll
it yet.
tell me afterwards.
What happened?
Right.
It's like, did that happen? And apparently,
Did it happen?
well, it's nobody knows if it happened, but there's a good chance it did happen.
Okay.
And that to me was like mind-boggling. It was like that's actually one of the most exciting things from the moon landing that we never heard about. So so go back to what you were saying.
And because, as once again, I was there watching on TV like millions and millions of people were watching the moon landing, I was curious about Neil Armstrong, about anybody who would be an astronaut. But it didn't delve into that. It didn't delve into anything. It just stayed vague. That's the word that comes to mind. So I found the movie very boring. And even the parts where I would be more interested actually in the scientific way they got to the moon, it was not there. And his personality was not there. And I found the wife great. And I can't remember the actress, but I know her from
Claire.
Claire Foy.
Claire Foy? Is
Yeah,
that Claire Foy?
that's his
That's
wife.
wife. She's the queen.
Yes,
Right?
Yes, she's the crown.
But she's a crown, right? But no, I did not like this movie at all.
Okay. George, we're passing Sean.
Well,
she has
actually,
this- okay.
I haven't seen it yet, but I just wanted to say something.
Yes.
About farmers, actually, because my grandfather was a farmer, my great grandfather was a farmer, and farmers are very isolated,
Stoic.
Yes.
stoic
Yes.
individuals.
Yeah.
Which, when you described, we were
Neil
talking about this
Armstrong?
before we came back
Yeah.
about Neil Armstrong. It makes sense. It's
Yeah,
not
'cause
even
he
about
was a
40s
farmer.
or 50s or 60s, but it's an isolated job, especially with the less technology that we have now to do
And
things.
he likes it.
And he enjoyed it. I will see the movie, and I'm interested in learning now more about Neil Armstrong because of the things you
It'll
mentioned.
be interesting to see what you think
But
of it.
but being a farmer, knowing the cycles of life.
Right.
Your crops die. You plant here. You do this.
Right.
Everything is very.
Well, you're familiar with farmers, so you know their personality.
Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense that he wouldn't have. Just
Yes.
in general, growing up, because his dad probably was a farmer. I could just
I don't know.
guess, but maybe that's family
Right.
farm. Usually it goes down, hands down to the son. But
Well, let me just mention that there was actually an A team, a 1 team, and a 2 team. He was on the 2 team. The 1 team, this is actual fact. What the fact that was, there was a huge accident and they were destroyed. They
There
died.
was a fire.
They were fired
big
in the
fire.
cockpit and they died.
Before
They'll
they
burn.
took off. Yeah.
holy crap!
Yeah,
that was
I didn't even know
Apollo.
this.
That was
Yes.
it was
Apollo 11. This is Apollo 11.
Apollo 11.
Right. So they now became the crew.
crew.
They weren't even supposed to be the crew.
Right.
Wow, I got to go back in my history.
Yeah.
All right, back to you, George.
Yeah, I love the movie, and also like you said, he is dealing with his daughter's death.
Which is huge to
It's
him.
huge, and he's dealing with his friends because who they burned basically in that accident too.
Right.
So this is all this traumatic stuff, and at the same time, might become the first man ever to walk on the moon. That just the weird combination of things.
Right.
And
The
so
excitement
just
of it,
but also
tragedy.
but
Sadness of it,
so
yeah.
the excitement, the soundness, but he's so like I said, so reserved that he just holds it all in. So and I'm actually a fan of Ryan Gosling. I think he's has a lot of charisma. He's like, I would consider him a modern day leading man, kind of Chris Pratt. I like those. You can feel the charisma, but he really does it well. He holds it in, and also the director, what was his name? Damien Chazelle. He directed La La Land. So obviously he had
Right.
Another movie I hated. So there you go.
So when Ryan Gosling was dancing on the spaceship, no, so he brought him back for this one. So, but okay, I'm gonna take more like I love one thing. The criticism was Claire Foy, that she could have had better lines, more lines in the movie because I'm gonna say you have a what is it? You have a Oxford School of Drama alumni.
Yeah.
And who won Emmy for The Crown, and you give her kind of simple lines. I used to be like,
But
emotionally, she was
she
there.
can still deliver.
Can I make a point on this? The sons of Neil Armstrong say that this was actually quite an accurate portrayal of their father and their mother.
And it was a time period where that's how fathers were.
Yeah.
Or men were in general.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's a throwback. There was a very common way that men were
Reacted to things.
He didn't expect to take care of anything emotional in the family, or she did it all.
She did.
He, I earn the money. Whatever, that's kind of the way it was.
Yeah.
But I had the argument. I was like, why did she marry this guy? But then I remember.
That's exactly what I thought.
But I remember that these people are very young. Usually, they're young. They're attracted to things. They don't think that far
like,
through.
what are we doing at that age? I was coloring between the lines.
How old was Neil Armstrong when he did this?
I don't know. I actually don't know. Well, when was he born?
I imagine in the late 20s. That's what I'm guessing.
Oh God, no! I think he's.
Anyways, while you look that up,
they don't let astronauts.
while you look it up, I'll continue.
We were going to look up.
They're
Yeah, what George?
No, I think
continue.
born
They have to
in
be in their 40s, I think.
So George.
Anyway, yes, as I was saying.
Yes.
Now I'm gonna take a more of a technical approach to this movie.
Okay.
And I mean it clocks in at like a 2 hours and 20 minutes, so it's a long one.
Yeah.
But it
long.
drags. I mean, it drags. So I can see why Patty might be like, "Hey, where's that?" So, but it's they filmed it. I think they did. They shot like in 24 and then 35 and 70 different, and they gave it that look of that time. So there's a lot. Some scenes.
So what do you mean by that? Do you mean
the 60s?
film?
The film, yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
they
looks were
filmed
film.
in because people aren't going to know what that means.
Oh yeah, yes, film. You're right. That's correct. Yes, the 35 millimeter, 70 millimeter film.
Okay.
And they gave it that look of the 60s, that time period. Yeah. And there's some scenes where you see camera shakes. Like you feel like you're in the time period. The color too is very like the time period.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like you're there. The way the people look it really takes you to that time period. The sound that's what really blew me away from this movie. And actually, they used actually won an award Oscar for visual effects too.
Oh,
but
cool.
I was listening to an interview with the two ladies that they were the
Follies?
No, they were the supervising sound editors.
Oh, they were the editors.
And it's just fascinating that they wanted to get a particular sound at the time, and they use a 94-piece orchestra for the score. They use a theremin. Because they said that in the to get the classic sound of the 50s and 60s, that a lot of those low budget films used to use a lot of theremin. So if you notice in the film, there is a lot of theremin in it. They use a moog. They use a moog and an echoplex.
I don't know what these mean.
Okay, it's a theremin is a long stick.
Yes.
With
the Beach Boys, good vibrations. Good vibrations.
You know that sound at the beginning?
It's an antenna.
Okay.
Scary movies from the day.
Yeah. Got it.
So
okay.
They use that effect. They use a moog.
They did.
They use a echoplex. And I was going to say Midsummer Murders.
Yes.
If you know the theme song, it's a Fermex.
Yeah.
Anyways, and I actually listened to an interview driving with them, and I kind of tried to find the interview again. And they did one thing about the movies. It's very metallic. They try to make the spaceship and the launching pad thing almost come to life. Like you feel like it's like Godzilla. So they had people. They have Foley's grinding metal and it's going. You hear a lot of.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like it's alive. Like it's kind of scary. And they say at that time period. Anyways, back
And
to
they won an Academy Award for sound, right?
And
Or visual
sound.
effects.
visuals. Yeah, I wouldn't want the one for sound or not, but
Visual
they.
effects.
I don't think they won for sound.
I do think they won.
But
for
they,
that.
Maybe they did. I don't know.
But they really achieved it to me.
Anyways, he was born in 1930.
But they really achieved.
Neil Armstrong. Oh,
They made it seem exciting, but really scary. I mean, they really showed that going to space is scary. And at that time period, the technology is you're going up in a tin can, basically.
Yeah.
It's just metal.
Here's my Diet Coke
and
can.
with flicking buttons.
If you go to, where is it? We always want to go
The
to.
moon?
No, George.
Oh, Universal Studios?
No.
That's where you always.
You know where they have all this? Where they have our?
Oh, no, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yes,
NASA.
Okay, that's
JPL,
it. We're going there.
JPL.
We're going there.
Yeah,
We're
we
going
definitely
there.
have to go there because I'll tell you, you see these, they have the original or
The makeup.
a
Mock-up.
makeup of what these guys had to go in. It's like a tin can. That's it's bare necessity.
on 20 pounds of oil fuel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
but
the
it's
technology.
so
It's scary.
little.
And that movie, it shows you that like the opening scene is when he's going just over the first time he's like maybe the first man to go over the horizon and it's like some kind of jet plane and the whole thing is shaking
And you can
you see
believe it.
and you see it and it's all knobs and analog and flicks and you feel like that ship is gonna fall apart and then you see it quiet and he's kind of and literally that's the opening scene. He's floating over the horizon and then he's gonna fall back down again, but then nothing's working, and then you see the thing going, the meters, which is the classic dial,
Right.
that they're going back down, then they start going back up because now the atmosphere now is picking them up.
Yeah.
So he might
Oh,
just
wow.
float into outer space on an actual plane. So he's dead basically. So he's like, oh shit, and then he starts going back down, and he goes, but it's just and I'm going, wow, they actually accomplished all this with this prehistoric technology
It
compared to now.
really is. You go to JPL and you see
Oh yeah.
these little things. You think, oh no, that can't be it. It's like nothing. It looks like what do you call it? A not saran wrap, but the silver one.
Tinfoil.
Aluminum
Tin
foil.
foil. It looks like tin foil on one side. It's so delicate.
Yeah, because it has to be light, I guess. Us actually,
Whatever
too.
it is, you have nothing but admiration for astronauts to have the balls to do this.
Yeah, and actually the supervising editors were A. Ling Lee and Millie Yatru. And one thing that they too, that they used elephant roars and multiply them.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
So if when you see them, like they walk into the platform, you hear like, and it sounds very metallic. It made me think of Godzilla.
Yeah.
They use horse stampedes. I mean, they were really going way very experimental with the sound effects. I mean, that's one thing that really attracted me.
I think they did win an
and I
Oscar
remember
for
telling
sound.
Susan, because we saw it in the theater too, so everything's huge.
Yeah.
And it was like, it feels like the thing is alive. That's what I felt like the launch pad is alive. It's like a monster. And it's really scary. And it's
Yeah,
waiting
it
for
must
you,
have
like,
seemed that way. I
The,
can't
the,
imagine.
thing that,
wow.
the thing that I thought was amazing, for me, like I was telling you at the end of Perfect Storm, it's like, please don't give me the emotion.
Right.
It was like, by his non-emotion, he
there was lots of it.
I really felt like I was actually being pulled into the black hole, his grief.
Right.
I felt his grief. And I thought that's why Ryan Gosling should have been nominated, because I felt his grief. He did nothing.
He did nothing.
No, but I felt
But inside,
everything.
he's
I
felt his
felt
emotion.
everything.
God,
Well,
you know,
two-
it feels like I've seen a whole different movie.
So
than you guys
two
have.
last points. Back to that, the ladies.
Oh, sorry, Dave.
They one of them interviewed an astronaut,
Right.
because they were trying to find the sound effects and what's it like, and he said he was telling her that it's super loud at that time. Those
Oh, yeah.
It's super loud. All you hear is roar, in which they capture in the film when they're going up. It's like so loud, and you feel like there's things gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
And then once you're in space, dead quiet.
Yeah.
And all you can hear is your own breath. You're breathing quiet. So they really capture that in the film. And the second point, which now I can't remember.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah.
What?
The movie reminded me of 2001 Space Odyssey.
Oh, me too.
Really?
Where it had that
Yes,
quietness
me too.
Oh
and
my
how it
God.
drags. It had a lot
Me
of
too.
silent moments. It was like a modern day 2001 Space Odyssey.
There was no music. There was
I would
no-
watch this movie twice, but I can't take
There
it.
was no music. That's it. If you notice that in Space Odyssey, there is no music.
I love.
I mean, the movie
2001.
drags, but it's just so.
It didn't drag me.
It's-
I was like,
I know it drags,
sucked
but it's-
I don't
in.
mind slow-paced movies. In fact, sometimes it has to be, and that's fine. But no,
Because
I
his
wouldn't call it
personality is like that. His personality, the same thing
nothing.
that makes him a great astronaut, and why they picked him. They picked him because remember, Buzz Aldrin, as much as he doesn't say that now, he wanted that.
Yeah.
He wanted to be the first guy that steps up.
I'm sure they all did.
No, those two. No, he didn't want it particularly. They picked him. They picked him because he was a person who doesn't like the limelight. He's not a
more reserved.
Yeah, they that's why NASA picked him to do it. They didn't want somebody who was flamboyant.
Right.
I wish they had got into much more of Neil Armstrong's personality, or as I said before,
That is his personality.
no, then it's nothing. What I'm saying is, it's all that it's a wall.
His
And
person.
you can only look at a wall.
Well,
so
now
long.
you sound like his wife.
Well, thank God he had his wife because she had some emotion.
But here's an interesting point actually. So the movie is his life at that particular time period when his friends die and the child dies and
Yeah.
he's going to the moon.
It's really a period
But
of his life.
yeah, so but actually in the way the movie is his personality. Even the movie represents his personality. He's
don't
very
think they
quiet,
represented it
reserved.
well.
So the movie is quiet and reserved too.
Yeah, and,
Even if they showed
and let me-
facial
And let me say this: there was because I got so interested in him, and if the ending of that movie
Yeah.
is true, which I think you should see, it's like a mystery which nobody seemed to notice. It was kind of like
that tells you something.
right. It was like his second wife, right? She
What
said
happened to the first one?
the first one they divorced after 38 years.
I don't blame her.
But they were actually separated for many years.
I don't blame
before
her.
that.
But
But
what
anyways,
happens with a lot of couples when there's death, a child,
yes,
children die,
yes. When death with the child, they just to me could not
Do it.
handle
get
that,
it together.
Yeah.
Anyways, the funny part was that he had been placed next to this woman that would become his second wife in some kind of venue, whatever.
Some events.
Yeah, there was like a nun event. It was
Right.
like something they did, and she was his next to him.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks later, he phoned her, and he said, like, what are you doing? And she said, I'm chopping down a cherry tree. And he goes, okay, I'll be right over. so I think...
They should have shown that in the
So
movie.
I think that what they show us is the death of his daughter to the moon landing, which was a period of working out his grief.
They don't show that.
And yeah, they do show that.
No, they
That's how
didn't.
he worked out his grief.
I would
In
like your comments
in
on this.
fact,
Did they show it?
And in fact, his sister said, like, there's things in the movie that shows that he actually was not in the program when his daughter died. He entered the program when his daughter died. That was his
escape.
Yeah, and that was not his escape.
And how important that
She told it he
Is for
took
him.
his grief and channeled it positively.
Yeah, it's called an escape.
Well, you could
Thank
call
you.
it. You could call
It's
it
okay.
escape.
You know, it is what
Whatever
it is.
works.
From his
Whatever
wife
works.
and his children's part, it probably was. But to his part, remember, before that, he's a what do you call that?
test pilot.
A test pilot.
Right.
That's what he does. He's a risk taker, and he takes things. He does the riskiest thing he can find and does it, and that's what he does.
Yeah.
And so my point is, she was probably the wrong wife for him, but people don't get together because they're right.
Right.
But if you're with a test pilot, he could die at any moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Maybe
what I mean?
that's why she went with him. There's
Yeah,
always possibility.
not
I mean,
really.
there had to be a flicker of
was
something
joking.
somewhere in his life with his wife. And
Actually, the other lady was pretty good. The one whose husband died, she was the one who was like the husband that died.
This is the friends who they also, because the astronauts.
There was an
they all hang out together.
A team and
So
a B team.
their
So this
wives,
was A team.
So their wives, they all hang
They
out
all know
They're
together.
all
each other.
friends.
Right.
So
when he died in that thing. I mean, before that, she was the one who told her. It's like I forget what she told her, but she told her something like basically, what she said is, my sister is married to a dentist, because that right?
Right.
And he comes home at 6 every evening, and every so often she phones me and goes, I wish he didn't come home every evening at 6. So it's like that. You know
So,
what I mean?
what do you rate it?
Me, 10.
Do you want to put your comment in?
I didn't see
Okay.
She didn't see it.
George,
I'll give it a 10. I thought it should have been
I'll give
more.
it a 3.
Wow.
I think you want
Which
to.
is interesting how different we think.
So please send your comments in.
Yes. I would
Tell
love
us what
to
you thought
hear.
about
Patty.
this
No.
movie.
Because if I'm missing
Yes.
something, I want to know.
Yeah,
Send
no,
them
and
into
I'll see
Patty.
it.
Okay, George.
Oh, you want? Oh no, you got to say
The ending.
the ending, the podcast.
Yes,
the
I'm
website.
going to.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So that concludes our 9th podcast. Yay!
9 already. Wow.
We would love to hear from you, and we really would. We would
Absolutely.
love
Yes,
to hear from you.
Please.
And we will actually take your suggestions.
Give
and
us
watch
a
them.
theme show. Scary movies, funny
Oh
movies.
yeah, didn't you want to do next week? Didn't
Well, for
you want to do
Halloween, let's do it.
comedy?
Wait,
Oh,
around
Halloween.
Halloween.
Would be a good horror film.
Yeah, we can do
yeah.
that for Halloween.
Yeah.
In October, maybe.
You
Yeah.
can email us
Yeah, I
at
have many.
whattheflixpodcast@gmail.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes and SoundCloud, and follow us on Instagram and Spotify.
Yes.
Those were very offensive.
Please give us your comments because we love outside info, telling us what you thought. And
Yeah.
it's important. And if you have movie suggestions, it's great because we all have our little niches in movies.
Yes.
But we really love to have.
Horror.
I like all kinds of movies.
And we do a lot of we do a lot of back movies, which is great. I think
Yeah.
because like, millennials don't know about
Right.
people need to know these great movies that they might see on Channel 13
Right.
at 3:00 on the afternoon of
With
Sunday
commercials,
night.
which some movies cannot have commercials.
So we do all these great movies, really.
Yes.
if you're a movie buff, these are great movies, the ones that we like to see because you don't get really the opportunity to see it.
Okay, and I forgot one thing. On Facebook, we are What the Flicks. Easy. So, until next time.
Until next time. Thank you.
Adios, muchachos.
Bye bye.